Okay, my YouTube friends, today we're going to get in the way back machine. We're going to go all the way back to 1948. And this is just a different cover that Steve was on, Steve was on probably as many or more bodybuilding magazine covers than anybody else. And I'll show you the list at some point. But anyway, we're going to go into his shoulder building routine, which is pretty interesting because it's not just about building up your delt muscles, but it's about, in fact, increasing the width of your skeletal parts, like your scapula and your rib cage and that kind of stuff, which a lot of people these days don't think that's possible, but in 1948 they certainly did, and they kept on thinking that way. And so we're gonna show a bunch of awesome pictures of Steve in between the article text boxes, and I have the complete article. The part of the article has been covered by other folks online, but this I'm going to give you the whole deal. Okay, soup to nuts. There he is on the beach with some other famous muscle folks, and you can see he's got the wide shoulders for sure, like compared to the other guys on there. So he's talking about why you'd want to have big shoulders and broad shoulders, and it gives the impression of being a real man. And in fact, the broader your shoulders are, it does indeed make you manly, at least in Steve's opinion. There's going to be some little added in text because this was from the Diddlo blog that I got the article. So whoever posted it, sometimes will squeeze in some like extracurricular statements. So if you see anything a little weird, that's what it's going to be. There's Steve with Alice Yarrick, and I guess he trained with at their gym for a while. And he's talking about the differences between a guy with small structure, and he's talking about how it might be easier to develop to a fuller extent a guy with a smaller frame. For example, like we covered in the last video, Danny Padilla. There's Steve at the bottom there. And again, this is obviously a Muscle Beach picture. This is not one of the shoulder building exercises Steve talks about, but certainly looks like it would do that anyway. Here he's talking about people wearing, obviously it's a desired thing to have broad shoulders because you see suits that are padded, and it gives an extreme case with this gentleman here. There's another picture of Steve and the raised arms. And again, you could see he's definitely got the chest and shoulder to waist proportions all going in the right place. So again, they reference, and this wasn't from the article, but again, because it's on Diddlo, he mentions this 15-part broad shoulder thing from Bob Hoffman. And again, those articles are good on Diddlo, but they don't tend to have pictures or much at all pictures. So this was Steve's Mr. Universe in 1950, that cover. But this is, it's not a huge list, for a guy as popular as Steve was. So, Mr. Pacific Coast, then he wins in 47, Mr. America, a couple other things, Mr. World, Mr. Universe in 48, 49, Mr. USA. This is a list, and this is just the first part of the list, going from 1947 to 57, of all of the magazine covers that Steve was on. Now, I did not put every last one of these pictures in the article, but I took a sprinkling from over the years of a good handful of them. So you'll see those through the video. Now, of course, he talks about the first step is to develop the deltoid muscles. And doing all these can properly add 2 to 4 inches to your shoulder width, he says. Second approach is to broaden the shoulders by developing the thoracic cage or rib box to its fullest capacity. which again, can you do that after your teenage years? It's hard to say. But Steve thinks to think that he was able to do it in his teens and into his 20s, and he'll go a little bit further on that subject. But he's talking about doing dislocations on rings, and now I used and I did a video on this Donnie Thompson's bow tie, where it goes on your shoulders. The loops, the big loops that you see on either side there, go around your shoulders, and it kind of forces your shoulders. There I am putting it on. Not too hard to put on and take off. But I usually do that a couple days a week, if not more, where I'll put this on, leave it on for like 20 minutes, and then I'll do some other back stretches after that for a little bit. And I think at the very least it helps your posture, so it helps develop at least the look of the broad shoulders in that having a better posture, if not actually stretching out those muscles and actually making it a tad bigger. There he is with the kettlebells, and Steve liked to do crucifix hold was something he did seem to like a lot, and holding dumbbells in various positions, maybe not all the way up, but halfway up, out in front. Then he talks about doing crisscrosses and stuff as we get into the heart of the program. So he's talking about that, even the well-developed deltoid actually makes the shoulders wider. It's not just the appearance of it. And now on the other hand, the lats, he talks about that, if you don't have wide lats, you can't get it. It's going to hinder your ability to have wide shoulders. Now, this is a picture of Steve at like 12 years old. And then we'll see a picture of him later on where he's like 16. Again, you can see the genetics, especially in the 16-year-old picture that we'll see. So he's talking about shoulder exercises for strength, mass, and size. And he talks about really some Olympic lifts there and overhead lifts. And it's interesting that he does relatively low reps, which would be more something that an Olympic lifter would do. But apparently Steve does like some of the Olympic lifts. Here he's talking about these other things you can do with dumbbells, including the crucifix. Crisscross at right angles to the body with dumbbells. So that's a little bit different. It's not something you see people do a whole heck of a lot of. Revolving crucifix. So in other words, you'd be just like holding the dumbbells out and just doing little circles. There's the picture of him at 16. And you can see he's already got a really good physique there. He's got the broad shoulders, wide clavicles, which was, it's a genetic thing that enables you to eventually develop wider shoulders. As he says, gifted with good genetics, wide clavicles that actually became wider. And he kept doing this even after he's 21, still made gains. Where he's talking about doing the dislocates. And, the things that actually would increase your skeletal capacity. Then he goes into talking about, and a lot of you have seen this picture of him doing what they call the Reeves deadlift, but it's not really a deadlift at all. And you can see his shoulders look ridiculously wide in that one. So he talks about how it's a misunderstood exercise, and it really should be called the Reeves shrug as opposed to the Reeves deadlift. Because it will build some mass in all the places that you would expect a deadlift or a shrug to do. It's really more meant to widen the shoulder girdle. There's another good picture of him leaning back. You can see the rips in his shoulder there, and got the definition in the chest and the arms. So he talks about on the Reeves deadlift, he describes it where it's basically you're holding the outside plates and on what looks like, a loaded deadlift bar. Instead of grabbing in the middle, you would grab outside by the plates and then stand up and do slow shrugs And again, you're thinking about really your scapula and trying to bring them together on the lift. And it's not really about hypertrophy of the deltoid muscles. And if you're, like it says, if you're a grown adult, you would not expect to widen your bones, but you might loosen up the tendons and ligaments surrounding the structure, and certainly couldn't hurt. Here's another cover, Muscle Power. This is one of the early Muscle Power covers that he was on. We're going to go on to show, as we finish up the article, and here he's going into the shoulder dislocations, or he preferred to use the gymnastic rings, and it was a favorite exercises for stretching the shoulders. There's another, the muscular development, so it's the Hoffman Muscle Magazine. Okay, so, and I don't think there's many muscle magazines that have been around that he wasn't on an issue of. Here's talking about if the rings may be a little bit too far advanced for a lot of people, me, just because of my shoulder mobility, but I can't even do this, the thing with the stick. Happened to find this other Exercise of the Month article out of a 74 muscular development article from Steve Stanko, and he's talking about this dumbbell dislocate exercise, which I really need to try these. But it's almost like a cross bench pullover, except you're bringing both dumbbells back behind you, and you're doing basically a circle with them from behind your head, and like pretty much together behind your head all the way back to you bringing your arms all the way down. It's like kind of like you're doing a butterfly with the dumbbells. Okay, and then you bring them back, and continue doing reps the same way. But describes exactly how the whole thing works on these couple pages of text here. At the end of it, he's do not rotate the hands, start with palms facing each other, and keep them that way throughout. Right, and then this was after the Reeves part of the article, where it says these dislocates can also be performed with a band. And then hanging from a chinning bar. And this is one of those comments that they put in about not doing it. There's a good picture of Steve, more from his movie days when he played Hercules in multiple movies. And you could see his shoulder, the thickness of the shoulders and the width is just really impressive. But going back to the stretching on the chin bar, it's a downward stretch, as he describes it here. You keep your arms stiff, so you pull yourself up just a tad with your lats, and then you relax down, and you try to kind of keep pulling up and getting into a more relaxed position, until you get to the most relaxed position you can get to. This is a great picture of his shoulder width there. And you can see the pecs go all the way across to where they meet the front delts. And he talks about several different variations of the program, basically for beginners, intermediate, and advanced. And he said any of them should be followed for several months. And here's a picture of him doing the, again, he talks about these exercises for strength, which are prerequisite to the whole thing. And you see him with the old school barbell there doing what looks like an overhead press, but he did do Olympic lifts where he would do the clean and press. He talks about doing just cleans in the movement in the article as well. So he talks about using lowest set and rep scheme first for the beginner. Do your shoulder hypertrophy first, and he talked about doing lats kind of along with the shoulders to get that maximum width, kind of from both sides. There's another cover he was on. Rib cage development again, and you would do that after squats. So, and again, the standard move there is the cross bench pullovers. Do a little more reps with them. So how much weight you use is not as big a deal with the pullovers after squats. It was more about breathing full and getting reps. There he is on a hard gainer, which I don't think Steve really fit that category whatsoever. But that was a little later, 1992, where, obviously his bodybuilding career was long over at that point. So advanced, again, you do shoulder hypertrophy, and then, which are those like 5 exercises. 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 seems like for all of them. And do the shoulder stretching, and then he talks about doing the lat stuff. This is the actual magazine from which this entire article came. So it's from 1948, Your Physique magazine. And that's about it for the article. And I do have a couple other videos about Steve. One was like his general training philosophy, and the other one's on his arm training. So now we'll have this pretty cool broadening your shoulders one. Thanks for watching. I thank those who have subscribed. You're really helping me out. If you haven't, I really hope that you would consider subscribing, and I will try to keep bringing the content. That's it. I'm out. Thanks for watching.